you very much. As to the actual report itself, was there ever an occasion where you wanted to, something was redacted from the report that Mr. Mueller objected to?
I wouldn't say objected to. My understanding is the categories were defined by me and the deputy. I don't think that I have no. I don't believe.
Did you work with him to redact the report?
Right. Those categories were executed by DOJ lawyers working with his lawyers. I think there were maybe a few judgment calls, very few, as to whether or not something as a prudential matter should be treated as a reputational interest or something. So there may have been some occasions of that, but as far as I'm aware.
I understand it, you did not want to hurt somebody's reputation unless it really affected the outcome, is that correct?
Right.
So was there any disagreement about 6E material?
Not that I'm aware of.
Any disagreement about classified information?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. So the conclusions in your 4-page summary, you think, accurately reflect his bottom line on collusion. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you can read it for yourself if you got any doubt. As to obstruction of justice, were you surprised he was going to let you decide?
Yes, I was surprised. I think the function he was carrying out, the prosecutive and investigative and prosecutive function, is performed for the purpose of making that
How many people did he actually indict? Do you know?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
So he actually has the ability to indict if he wants to. He's used that power during the investigation. Is that correct?
That's correct. And the other thing that was confusing to me is that the investigation carried on for a while as additional episodes were looked into, episodes involving the president. And so my question is, or was, why were those investigated if at the end of the day you weren't going to reach a decision on them?
So did you consult Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein about the obstruction matter?
Constantly, yeah.
So was he in agreement with your decision not to proceed forward?
Yes. I'm sorry, the agreement what?
Not to proceed forward with obstruction.
Right.
Okay. So very quickly, give us your reasoning why you think it would be inappropriate to proceed forward on obstruction of justice in this case.
Well, generally speaking, an obstruction case typically has two aspects to it. One, there's usually an underlying criminality that's
Let's stop right there.
Yeah.
Was there an underlying crime here?
No.
So
Okay.
usually there is.
Usually. But it's not necessary, but
Right.
the typical case, sort of the paradigmatic case is there's an underlying crime, and then the person implicated or people implicated are concerned about that criminality being discovered, take an inherently malignant act, as the Supreme Court has said, to obstruct that investigation,
So
such
one
as
of the
destroying
examples
documents.
that people were worried about, that he fired Comey to stop the Russian investigation. That's one of the concerns people had. Let me tell you a little bit about Comey. I do not have confidence in him, Comey, any longer. That was Chuck Schumer, November the 2nd, 2016. I think he, Comey, should take a hard look at what he has done, and I think it would not be a bad thing for the American people if he did step down. Bernie Sanders, January the 15th, 2017. The president ought to fire Comey immediately, and he ought to initiate an investigation. That is Congressman Nadler, November the 14th, 2016. Did you have a problem with the way Comey handled the Clinton email investigation?
Yes, I said so at the time.
Okay. So given the fact that a lot of people, Comey should be fired, did you find that to be a persuasive act of obstructing justice?
No. I think even the report at the end of the day came to the conclusion, if you read the analysis, that a reason that loomed large there for his termination was his refusal to tell the public what he was privately telling the president, which was that the president was not under investigation.
As to where we go forward, as to how we go forward, would you recommend that this committee and every other committee of Congress do our best to harden our infrastructure against future Russian attacks?
Absolutely, yes.
Do you think Russia is still up to it?
Yes.
Do you think other countries may get involved in our elections in 2020?
Yes.
So you would support an effort by Congress working with the administration to harden our electoral infrastructure?
Yes.
Is that one of the takeaways of the Mueller report?
Yes.
Do you share my concerns about the FISA warrant process?
Yes.
Do you share my concerns about the counterintelligence investigation, how it was opened and why it was opened?
Yes.
Do you share my concerns that the lack of professionalism in the Clinton email investigation is something we should all look at?
Yes.
Do you expect to change your mind about the bottom line conclusions of the Mueller report?
No.
Do you know Bob Mueller?
Yes.
Do you trust him?
Yes.
How long have you known him?
30 years, roughly.
Do you think he had the time he needed?
Yes.
Do you think he had the money he needed?
Yes.
Do you think he had the resources he needed?
Yes.
Do you think he did a thorough job?
Yes, and I think he feels he did a thorough job and had adequate evidence to make the calls.
Do you think the president's campaign in 2016 was thoroughly looked at in terms of whether or not they colluded with the Russians?
Yes.
And the answer is no, according to Bob Mueller.
That's right.
He couldn't decide about obstruction. You did. Is that correct?
That's right.
You feel good about your decision?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.